The officer emptied her purse on the hood of her own car. A luxury sedan, leased in her name, registered to her address. And yet, 5 squad cars blocked her driveway. A neighbor had reported a suspicious black woman loading valuables into a trunk. Her ID? Ignored. Her voice? Dismissed. Her 9-year-old son watched from the window as she was handcuffed on the lawn of her own home, barefoot, crying, begging them not to shoot her dog. They never apologized. They never even looked inside the house. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. It was 7:18 a.m. when Vanessa Price stepped into her driveway with her purse in one hand and a laptop bag in the other. She was late for a Zoom conference at the firm, but her Wi-Fi had gone out again. So she planned to drive to her office suite, 15 minutes across town, where the internet worked and no one called the cops when she walked outside in slippers. Her son, Malik, stood in the window brushing his teeth, half waving at her while chewing. Vanessa smiled and waved back. The trunk of her Lexus opened with a smooth click. She placed her MacBook, her files, and her thermos inside, then turned toward the driver's door. That's when she heard the first siren, then a second, then a third. Within 90 seconds, her quiet suburban street in Plano, Texas was lit up in red and blue. One SUV skidded into her driveway at an angle. 2 more cruisers boxed her in from the rear. Vanessa blinked, one hand still on the door handle. 4 officers jumped out, guns drawn. Put your hands where we can see them. Step away from the vehicle. Face down. Now, she froze. This is my house. But her voice was drowned out by the orders. She dropped her keys. One officer approached with cuffs already out. Vanessa backed up. I live here. My son is inside. They didn't listen. She was pulled forward, turned, and cuffed on the hood of her own car. She was barefoot. Her robe had slipped at the shoulder. Her phone dropped from the pocket and cracked on the cement. We got a report, said a tall, white officer with a clipped voice. Suspicious activity. Possibly burglary. Vanessa turned her head against the hot metal. Burglary? That's my house. Look in the mailbox. Look at the lease. No one moved. Instead, they emptied her purse. Lipstick. Business cards. A phone charger. A badge from the Texas State Bar. It fell onto the pavement with a soft clink. The youngest officer paused. Ma'am, are you an attorney? She nodded, jaw clenched. Yes, and you're violating my rights. Still cuffed, she turned her head. Her son stood in the window, watching, mouth open, still holding a toothbrush. One officer walked toward the front door. Vanessa screamed, Don't go near him. Don't touch my son. But it was too late. They had already decided she didn't belong. Not in that car. Not on that block. Not with that title. The neighbor who called it in? She watched from her porch, holding a coffee mug, wearing Vanessa's same robe, just 3 shades lighter. The cuffs didn't come off for 18 minutes. Not when she identified herself. Not when she pointed at her son through the window. Not even when the officer found her name, Vanessa D. Price, printed in bold on her State Bar ID. It took a phone call, not to a supervisor, to the neighbor. She confirmed it wasn't her house. That's when the cuffs came off. No apology, no explanation. Just a quick murmur from the senior officer. Just doing our job, ma'am. Vanessa didn't answer. She couldn't. Her hands trembled too hard to hold her keys. Malik was still standing at the window, now with tears sliding silently down his cheeks. She waved at him, told him to go sit down, but he didn't move. A junior officer tried to lighten the moment. At least your son knows we take security seriously. Vanessa turned her head slowly. He knows you treat me like a criminal. He shut up after that. By the time she got inside, Malik had locked the front door. Mommy, he whispered. They thought you were stealing our stuff? She knelt down, held his shoulders. They thought I didn't belong. She didn't sugarcoat it. Because Malik was 9. And 9 in America wasn't too young to understand what it meant to be misread by skin. Later that morning, Vanessa called the Plano Police Department and asked for the incident report. The woman on the line hesitated. What date? Today? This morning. Address, 406, Bishop Lane. Clicking. Silence. There's no formal report filed yet. Might still be processing. Under what code was I detained? More clicking. Then a pause. You weren't detained, ma'am. Vanessa blinked. I was cuffed and held against a vehicle. Yes, but no charges were filed. No report generated. It's being logged as a field safety verification. Vanessa sat down. Are you telling me there's no written record that 4 squad cars arrived, weapons drawn, and restrained a homeowner on her own lawn? The woman's voice was quiet now. That's a supervisor-level discretion call. Sometimes those don't get filed. Unless I resist? Pause. Yes, ma'am. Then it would escalate. Vanessa hung up. Her laptop screen blinked at her, the frozen Zoom login still waiting. But she didn't open it. Instead, she pulled out a legal pad. She wrote down every officer's name tag she could remember. Every word they said. The sequence of cars. The way the youngest one hesitated when her bar card hit the pavement. Then she opened her email. Subject: request for body cam footage, October 4th, for 06, Bishop Lane. She copied legal, copied internal affairs, copied herself. When she hit send, her hands were still shaking. But her voice was calm. Later that day, Malik brought her a drawing he made. It was of their house. And in front of it, 4 police cars. One figure stood in the middle. Brown skin, curly hair, arms raised. Above her head, he'd written in a crooked child's hand, "This is my mommy's house, not jail." The email response came 2 days later. Not from the police. From the city attorney's office. Subject: body camera footage request, ref hashtag 1104CX. Ms. Price, your request has been received and is currently under review. Per department protocol, all body cam footage must be vetted for privacy, security, and relevance. Due to the non-criminal nature of the event in question, release may be limited or denied. Vanessa read the line 3 times. Non-criminal nature. She stared at her wrists. The fading marks still visible like shadows. Her phone buzzed again. A voicemail. From the Homeowners Association. A woman named Laurel. Polite. Efficient. Hi, Ms. Price. Just wanted to let you know there's been some concern about recent events on the block. A few residents are asking for a discussion about neighborhood cohesion and appropriate conduct. Vanessa didn't return the call. Instead, she opened her front camera, lifted her sleeve, and took a picture of the bruising. Then she posted it on her locked Instagram page with one caption. Not a misunderstanding. Not a conversation. A pattern. By Friday, her law partner, a white man named Greg, called her into his office. He looked concerned. Vanessa, listen. I heard what happened. And I support you, obviously. She folded her arms. But he hesitated. There are whispers that you're making a spectacle. Clients are asking questions. About what? Why I was cuffed for existing. He looked uncomfortable. About whether you're escalating it. Posting. Filing. Talking to the press. She leaned in. Do you know what I didn't do, Greg? I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I didn't resist. I complied. Pause. And they still put their hands on me. Greg swallowed. I'm just saying, be careful. She nodded slowly. I always have been. That evening, she attended the HOA meeting in person. It was held in the clubhouse of a nearby gated complex. Of the 23 residents in attendance, Vanessa was the only black homeowner. Laurel, the HOA lead, began gently. Thank you all for coming. We just want to make sure everyone feels safe and supported after the incident on Bishop Lane. Murmurs. Nods. Vanessa raised her hand. Would anyone like to know what actually happened? Silence. She stood. 4 patrol units responded to a call that I was robbing my own car. I showed ID. I gave my address. I was still cuffed. Someone whispered. Well, they didn't know. They knew enough to aim guns. But not enough to check a mailbox. Laurel tried to smooth it over. We don't want to assign blame. You already did. When no one knocked on my door after. When I became the threat instead of the neighbor who made the false call. The room sat still. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here for clarity. She walked out. No applause. No comment. Just one man near the door who muttered under his breath. People like her always make it about race. Vanessa stopped for half a second, but didn't turn, because she knew what they feared most wasn't noise. It was documentation. Monday brought rain, and with it, the official response from the Plano Police Department. Vanessa opened the email at 6:17 a.m. before her first client call. Ms. Price, following your inquiry, an internal review was conducted regarding the field contact at 406 Bishop Lane. Our officers acted on a 911 report indicating a suspected vehicle burglary in progress. Responding officers followed department protocol and resolved the situation without injury or escalation. While we regret any distress caused, our primary obligation remains public safety. The matter is now considered closed. No signature, no name, no acknowledgement of handcuffs, no mention of her child. She scrolled back to the top, then down again, once more. And then she sat back in her chair and whispered to no one. They didn't even say my name. At the office, she kept her head down. Work helped. Briefs. Depositions. Case strategy. But even in her focus, the tension crept in. One client, an older couple from out of town, glanced at her nameplate and asked politely, "Is there a different attorney we can work with? We read about a situation." Her coworker intercepted and reassigned the case. Vanessa didn't argue, just wrote the name down in her notebook. Mr. and Mrs. Fulton, declined, 10 nights. That night, she tried to explain it to Malik. He was sitting on the carpet, building a Lego spaceship. "Did the police say sorry?" he asked. She shook her head. He placed a block slowly. "Would they have said sorry if you were a man?" She paused. "Maybe. Or if you were white?" She looked at him. His hands had stopped moving. She didn't answer, because she didn't want to lie. The next day, Vanessa filed a civil request for public disclosure of the 911 call that sparked the event. 2 days later, she received the audio. She listened to it alone. A woman's voice. Shaky. Light. "Hi. Yes, I just saw someone. A woman taking things from a car. It's a Lexus. Dark gray. She's not someone I recognize from this neighborhood." Dispatcher. "Is she doing anything threatening?" "No, but she looked at me. I felt off. Could you send someone to check?" Vanessa replayed it 3 times. Nowhere did the caller say black, but she didn't have to. She said off. She said, "Not from here." That was the language of suspicion. Coded. Polished. Deadly. Later that week, Malik brought home a drawing from school. It showed 2 stick figures. One was labeled Mom. The other had a blue hat and a red face. Above it, he had written, "She's not bad. You are." Vanessa didn't ask what the teacher said. She didn't need to, because sometimes the sharpest lessons didn't come from a courtroom. They came from crayons. By Friday morning, Vanessa had filed her first motion. It wasn't in criminal court. It was a civil demand for body camera disclosure, filed under Texas Government Code Section 552.108. She mailed physical copies. Certified. Return receipt requested. She CC'd the city attorney, the department's public information officer, and the officer who had emptied her purse. No reply came for 3 days, until a voicemail landed in her inbox. "Ms. Price, this is Deputy Mullen from Plano PD. We're reviewing your filings. You may want to consult with your city liaison before continuing. These matters often resolve more efficiently without litigation." It wasn't a threat, but it wasn't neutral. She played it twice, then forwarded it to a friend, one of the few she trusted, an ethics attorney in Austin. He responded 5 minutes later. "They're nervous. You're doing it right." At work, tension grew. Her cases were reassigned without notice. Her client meetings were rescheduled mysteriously. One partner approached her gently. "Vanessa, the firm supports your journey, but perhaps it's time to let this go. Focus on healing." She stared at him. "I'm not bleeding. I'm building." He said nothing, just walked away. That evening, she sat with Malik at the dinner table. He poked at his food. "You're going to court?" She nodded. "Not yet. But soon. Will the police be there?" "Probably not." "Then who's going to say sorry?" She didn't answer. Because this wasn't about sorry. It was about precedent. On Sunday night, she drafted a public op-ed. She didn't name the officers. She didn't describe the neighborhood. She just told the truth. "I am a black woman, a homeowner, a mother, a licensed attorney. None of those facts stopped 4 officers from treating me like a trespasser in my own life." She titled it, "The Day I Was Unmade in My Own Driveway." By Monday morning, it had been picked up by 3 legal blogs. Comments rolled in, some in support, others accusing her of race-baiting, overreacting, making it political. But one comment stood out, from a woman in Michigan. "This happened to me in 2016. Same words, same fear, same silence. I thought I imagined it. Thank you." That night, Vanessa printed the comment, pinned it to her fridge, not for validation, but for documentation. The next day, she received a package. Inside, a USB drive. No return label, just one sticky note. "You didn't get this from me." She plugged it into her laptop. 3 video files. Uncut. Body camera footage from the morning of October 4th. Vanessa sat still as she watched the youngest officer hesitate over her ID badge. Saw her hands on the hood. Heard her son scream from the window. Heard her voice shake but never rise. No edits. No redactions. No justification. Only evidence. Proof that the story she told wasn't just memory. It was record. By Wednesday morning, the video was online. Not on her account. She didn't post it. Someone else did. The caption read, "Texas attorney cuffed in her own driveway. Body cam footage raises questions." In the first hour, it had 3,000 views. By noon, 17,000. Local news picked it up next. Then a national legal blog. Vanessa sat at her desk, watching the footage play on a muted loop across a dozen timelines. She didn't speak. She didn't blink. But her phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Calls. Messages. Emails. Some supportive. Others warning her to lawyer up. She already had. That afternoon, a formal letter arrived from the Plano City Legal Office. "Ms. Price, in light of the recent unauthorized release of confidential police footage, we are opening an internal inquiry to assess potential policy violations and breaches of data protection. As you are named in the footage, you may be called to participate in the review process. No apology. No responsibility. Just legal positioning. And fear." At work, partners stopped speaking to her. One paralegal whispered in the hallway, "They're saying you brought drama into the firm." She didn't flinch. She just added it to the file. That evening, she received a message request on LinkedIn from a journalist. Young, professional, clear. "Ms. Price, I've been following your case. Would you be open to an interview? Off the record first. We can discuss limits." Vanessa agreed. They met in a coffee shop. Neutral location. No press badge. The journalist, named Amira, came prepared. Printed notes. Timeline. Incident codes. But she asked only one question. "What do you want people to understand that the footage can't show?" Vanessa paused, then answered, "That I was still afraid. Even when I did everything right. Even when I didn't run. Even when I didn't raise my voice. That the cuffs don't leave marks on your skin. They leave them in your kids' drawings." Amira nodded. Didn't cry. Didn't pity. Just wrote it down. By Friday, the story had a headline. "Plano attorney challenges system after detainment in own driveway. I was never the suspect." By Friday night, the police released a supplemental statement. "While the responding officers followed protocol based on the information provided, we acknowledge that communication and de-escalation strategies can always be improved. An internal review remains ongoing." Still no mention of her name. Still no direct acknowledgement. But Vanessa saw what mattered. They were reacting, not controlling. On Saturday, a flyer appeared on her windshield. An invitation. Community Police Engagement Forum, open to the public, featuring Plano PD command staff. She circled the date. Didn't RSVP. But she'd be there. Because now, they couldn't pretend it hadn't happened. And when they looked out into the crowd that night, they'd see her. Not asking for space. Taking it. The forum was held in the community center gym. Rows of folding chairs. Bottled water. A table with a blue banner that read, "Building Trust Through Dialogue." Vanessa arrived 10 minutes early. Wearing black. No press. No entourage. Just her, a notepad, and a printed copy of the body cam transcript. Malik stayed home, under clear instruction not to watch anything live. Inside, there were maybe 30 people. Mostly older residents. Some off-duty officers in plain clothes. A few nervous interns with clipboards. At the front table sat 5 men in uniform. One of them was Deputy Mullen, the voice from the voicemail. He smiled when he saw her. A tight, practiced smile. "Good evening, folks," said the moderator. "We're here to strengthen community ties. To listen. To grow." Then came the talking points. Graphs. Crime reduction. Youth outreach. Not a word about body cameras. Not a mention of Vanessa. When they opened the floor to public comments, her hands went up. A retired man asked about speeding tickets. A woman mentioned graffiti on her garage. Then Vanessa stood. No mic. No intro. Just her voice. "I'm Vanessa Price." The woman cuffed on Bishop Lane. Every head turned. Some recognized her. Others pretended not to. She held up the transcript. "This is the record of what happened." 4 officers responded to a vague call. "I was handcuffed on my property. My son watched from the window. I was not charged." "And you've said nothing." Mullen cleared his throat. "Miss Price, we understand the community has concerns, and that matter is currently—" "Don't redirect," she interrupted. "Just listen." The room went quiet. She didn't shout. She didn't accuse. She read. Word for word. Every officer's line. Every moment of silence where a question could have been asked, but wasn't. Then she said, "You didn't protect. You presumed. And you hoped I'd stay quiet." The moderator tried to cut in. "Thank you, Ms. Price, for your—" "I'm not done." She stepped forward one more row. "You want to build trust? Start by calling things what they are. I was not a concern. I was not a situation. I was a citizen. And you failed me." She sat. No applause. No outburst. Just the sound of a gym full of adults realizing she'd just said everything they couldn't. Later, as people shuffled out, one officer passed her without meeting her eyes. Another whispered, "For what it's worth, that was brave." She didn't thank him. Bravery wasn't the point. Accuracy was. That night, she got an email from the city manager's office. "We invite you to a private meeting with community leadership to further discuss resolution." She didn't reply. Not yet. She had learned one thing in that gym. The system listens only when it fears silence less than exposure. The meeting was scheduled for Tuesday at 4:15 p.m. City Hall, 3rd floor. Closed session. No cameras. No recordings. No lawyers. Vanessa arrived 5 minutes early. She brought a folder with her. Inside, the body cam transcript, the city's official statement, and a printed screenshot of Malik's drawing. The room smelled like furniture polish and protocol. 3 people were already seated. Deputy Mullen, again. City Attorney Lisichin, calm, professional, smile like glass. And Councilman Edward Holloway, retired, charismatic, known for mediating difficult optics. They offered water. She declined. Shin started. "Ms. Price, thank you for coming. We hope today can be productive." Vanessa nodded once. "Productive how?" Holloway leaned forward. "There's been a tension. Media. Tension. We'd like to close the matter constructively. Move forward. Define close," she said. Chin opened a folder. "The city is prepared to issue a statement acknowledging the incident. Without admitting wrongdoing, we'd express regret for distress caused. In exchange, we'd ask you to refrain from further publication or press." Vanessa blinked. "You want to settle?" Chin adjusted her blazer. "No funds involved. Just mutual de-escalation. No apology. No legal liability." Holloway jumped in. "You've made your point. Powerful. We're just trying to avoid inflaming things further." Vanessa opened her folder. She pulled out Malik's drawing, slid it across the table. They looked at it, then looked away. "You want this to be quiet," she said. "Because you think if I stop talking, it ends." Chin responded carefully. "We think it helps everyone move forward. Everyone but me." Silence. Vanessa stood. "You're offering a statement to protect yourselves. I want a system that doesn't make my child draw police with red faces and cuffs on his mother." Mullen broke in. "Ms. Price, respectfully, respect doesn't begin with a settlement," she said. "It begins with recognition." She gathered her folder. "I'll see you at the next forum." Holloway sighed. "You're forcing our hand." She looked back. "Good." She walked out, down the hallway, past portraits of men who never had to fight for the right to be believed. Back at home, Malik was doing homework on the couch. He looked up. "Did they say sorry?" Vanessa shook her head. "But they said something." "What did you say?" She sat beside him. "No." He smiled. "Good." That night, her inbox flooded again. More media. More lawyers. One message stood out. A woman from Seattle. Another lawyer. Her message was short. "I've been watching. You're not alone. Tell me when you're ready." Vanessa stared at the screen. For once, she didn't feel surrounded. She felt seen. By Thursday, small things started to change. The officer who grabbed her wrist, gone from patrol duty. The department's website quietly updated, new bias training initiative listed at the bottom. And the city's public safety newsletter? No mention of her. But the cover photo, a smiling black officer standing with school kids, was new. Vanessa saw what they were doing. It wasn't admission. It was optics. And it meant only one thing. They were afraid of what might come next. At the firm, her cases began returning. No announcement. No apology. Just quiet reinstatement. Even Greg stopped avoiding her in the hallway. "You good?" he asked one morning. She nodded. "I will be." That afternoon, she received a letter in the mail. Stamped, Plano PD, Records Division. Inside, a full printed transcript of the 911 call. And a note. "As per your continued requests, we release this document in full compliance with statute. This concludes your open records inquiry." No signature, But she recognized the formatting. It was the city's way of saying, "We're done." But she wasn't. That weekend, she drove to Dallas, met with the attorney who messaged her from Seattle. They sat in a quiet cafe off Main Street. Her name was Tamara Baines, civil rights litigator. Sharp. Understated. Tamara spoke first. "I read your filings. You know what I like most?" Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "They don't sound angry. They sound precise." "That's the point," Vanessa said. "They expect rage. I gave them structure." Tamara smiled. "Structure terrifies them more." They talked for 2 hours. Not about damages. Not about lawsuits. About strategy. Narrative. Pattern. Tamara handed her a folder. "We're putting together a case study series. Not court cases. Not headlines. Documentation." Vanessa opened it. Inside were 8 names. Different cities. Different years. All attorneys. All homeowners. All cuffed. All told it was a misunderstanding. She stared at the last page. Her name was already there. Tamara said quietly, "You're not the first, but you might be the first to make them record it properly." Vanessa closed the folder. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel like she was chasing justice. She felt like she was defining it. On the drive back, she called Malik. "Want to help me write something when I get home?" "A speech?" "No. A letter. To every city that's still pretending." He laughed. "Will it be mean?" She smiled. "No. Just accurate." Back in her office, she pulled out the legal pad where it all began. She flipped past the officers' names, past the quotes, past the drawings, until she reached a blank page. At the top, she wrote, "This isn't a story about cuffs. It's a story about erasure and how we reverse it." The final statement came on a Tuesday. City of Plano, Office of Public Affairs. Mass-mailed. Sanitized. Strategic. In response to recent community concerns, the Plano Police Department reaffirms its commitment to respectful engagement. While the department followed procedural steps during the October 4th response, we recognize the importance of community dialogue and reflection. That was it. No names. No responsibility. No regret. Vanessa didn't expect more. She didn't even read it twice. Instead, she opened a clean document. Title: Standard Operating Silence When Policy Erases People. It was part essay, part affidavit. She broke down every line of the transcript, matched it to official policy, highlighted what wasn't said and what should have been. Then she submitted it. Not to court, not to press, to the State Bar of Texas Diversity and Ethics Review Committee. 3 weeks later, they responded. "Ms. Price, your account and analysis provide meaningful context for our ongoing legal ethics reform initiative. We invite you to consult on training language for bias response protocols." She said yes, not for credit, but because it would be the first time someone like her helped write the rules instead of defend herself against them. At home, Malik was drawing again. This time, no police cars. Just a big building, labeled Mom's Job. And out front, a stick figure with glasses and a smile. He handed it to her. "You look better here," he said. She laughed. "Thanks, buddy." He paused. "They won't do it again, right?" She looked at him carefully. "Maybe not to me, but to someone else? Probably." He frowned. "Then we keep writing?" She nodded. "We always keep writing." That weekend, Vanessa stood in front of a classroom at a law school in Houston. Guest lecturer. Topic: Civilian rights and institutional language. A student raised her hand. "Ms. Price, how do you stay calm when the system refuses to say the truth?" Vanessa smiled. "By making sure they don't get to say the last word." And that's exactly what she did. The next month, Plano PD quietly updated their policy handbook. New section: Field Interaction Protocol, Civilian Identification, Presence of Minors, Escalation Avoidance. Still no credit. Still no name. But Vanessa didn't need their signature. She had the transcript. She had the drawing. She had the letter that started it all. And in every line she published, every talk she gave, every city she challenged, she made sure one sentence never got erased again. This is my house. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.